Today, we're going to do something crazy, maybe a little outrageous, maybe a little off the wall. Today, on Equal Matters, we're going to tell the truth. Hi, I'm Rob Hunter. What's happening with you? I'm currently in Sedona. I've been on a retreat for the last 3 days, an awesome retreat. A retreat that was called World Bringers, hosted by Juliet Trinka, who is amazing. This was a group that was all filled with amazing individuals. And one of the challenges that we did in this group was to really look at ourselves and look at our values and look at where we've stepped forward and where we've not, or where we've gingerly stepped forward when we could have taken bold steps. And in this process, in this exercise, I realized something. I'm a liar. Yeah, I'm going to say that again. I am a liar. Now, truth be told, we're all liars, but I'm just owning mine because the work that I do now is focused on standard bearers. People that are already number one in their industries, but no, they're not. Number one's not enough. That they're here to change their industries for the better. Yesterday, I told you about my man, Dave Riccio, the owner of Tri-City Transmissions in Tempe. Dave is a phenomenal mechanic. But what he fundamentally wants to do is change the auto repair industry because it's filled with dishonest people. It's filled with liars. And one of Dave's favorite things to do is save people money. And he'll do that whenever he can. I gave you the example of a Subaru, 2015 Subaru Forester. A woman brought it in. Tri-City was her third try. She had been quoted $12,000 replacement of her transmission at the dealership, $10,000 at a different auto shop. Well, Dave found a different problem. Replaced one part of the transmission, it was only $2,000. So because Dave is willing to do this work, he's the standard bearer. And because he's working hard to save people money, he's living by his values of transparency, good facts for good decisions for customers. And I look at my career in radio, and I look at all the times that I lied. I didn't tell my full truth. If I want to talk about politics, the full truth, I have said this many times on the air. I think our political system sucks. It's shit. It is built on division. And really what politics is about is money, always. We think it's about values, and that's what we argue about. Our values versus their values, right versus left. This is what the government's role should be. But here's the reality of what government is. Government is just a washing machine. A congressman friend said that. David Schweikert is his name. He's running for governor of the state of Arizona. And what he means by that is that whoever wins, whatever party wins, controls the purse. The purse is run through the House of Representatives. The funding is doled out oftentimes by the executive branch. Here's how it works. Democrats win. Democrats funnel money to Democrat donors. Republicans win. They funnel money, your money, taxpayer money, to Republican taxpayer dollars or donors. I'll use big energy as an example. Oil and gas supports Republicans. So when Republicans get in office, they pass bills that benefit oil and gas companies to reward those political contributions. In the show, what's it called? Steve Martin Short Show, Murders in the Building. One of the characters is the mayor at one point as a hawk flies by. Beautiful. Wow. Awesome. This is one of the magical things about Sedona. You just never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to see. Just magic everywhere. So the character is playing the mayor, Keegan-Michael Key. He makes a joke that it's weird that when someone gives you money, they expect something in return. That's what Washington is. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about, clean energy. Clean energy companies typically support Democrats. So when Democrats get in power, they'll pass policies that benefit green energy companies. And then government contracts will be doled out to those companies. So it's a quid pro quo game. I can say that 3 times fast. But that's the truth. But this goes beyond that because, again, that seems pretty obvious to most of us. We just like to fight about ideals while those in Washington don't care. They just want to win and spend your money. So I'm going to give you another example, and then I'm going to break down all the different little ways that I lied. First speech I ever gave, I was 25 or 26 years old. I was living in New Orleans. I was a talk show host there. You may have heard me say that once or twice if you've been listening to me for a long time. And I was very honored to give this speech. It was to the New Orleans Republican Party. And New Orleans is not really a two-party city. Like many urban cities in America, the mayor's Democrat, the city council's Democrat. So the Republican Party was pretty small. But as a talk show host, there's an alignment of values in certain ways, and I'll tell you mine. My values, and I was thankfully honest about these values. The lie was not always living up to these values. So how I look at government, I'm only framing this in government terms because this is my background. I believe that the government should be good stewards of our money. They're not. Neither party is. We could talk about the national debt, but we're not going to get into that debate here, at least right now. So that's number one. Priority number one. If you're going to take my money, spend it well. But I just pointed out they don't because they just give it to their friends who donate to their campaigns. That's how government contracts work. I mean, look at the Trump administration right now. They're giving out all kinds of no-bid contracts to campaign donors. Democrats do the same thing. It's not just Trump. That's the truth. When I was in New Orleans, got invited to speak to this Republican Party event, and I, like I said, was thrilled. So I came with it. I brought a banging speech. But see, my fiscal conservatism is only part of the equation. Socially, I'm very liberal. This was back in 2003, 2004. I was pro-gay marriage, still am. That doesn't usually agree with many Republicans. I didn't speak about that at the Republican Party event. No. I shaped the speech knowing who my audience was. That's the lie. The lie of fitting in. The lie of not wanting to be outcast. The lie of wanting to be well received in this group. I don't remember exactly what I said in the speech, but I outlined my principles. I outlined how I viewed the government. And then it was election season. I talked about the candidates that I quote unquote supported. One was a guy named David Vitter. He was running for senator in the state of Louisiana. And David was the typical religious right conservative. I was not really a fan of him at all because he seemed gross and fake to me. But at this Republican Party event, his wife was there. He wasn't there. At the time, I don't remember if he was a congressman, if he was in the state house, I don't remember. But I remember his wife spoke before me, and because of that, I felt obligated to include David Vitter in the candidates that I supported and gave the reasons why we should elect him over the Democrat and a couple of other Republican candidates. That was a lie because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be well received by this group, in which I was. I got a standing ovation at the end of the speech, and that felt great for a 25, 26-year-old kid. Felt like I was somebody for the first time. As for me, New Orleans was my first talk show, and it was a big deal. I was 25 years old when I got the gig, and how we measure things in media is by market size. Size always matters, y'all. And this was at the time, pre-Katrina. New Orleans was a top 50 market. I thought I was the man. That at 25, I got a talk show in a top 50 market. And I thought it was great because applying for radio jobs is like anything else. You're more likely to get the job if you know someone. So just like a director, say Martin Scorsese works a lot with Leonardo DiCaprio, program directors, which are radio station directors, they have their favorite hosts that they like. So if, say, a program director is working in Richmond, Virginia, gets to know a guy he really likes in Richmond, Virginia, that program director moves to, say, Phoenix, Arizona, that program director is going to want to hire the same person. But in this case, for me, I mailed a CD in because I saw the job posting on one of the radio station job boards, and I figured I wouldn't hear anything, but I got an email back from this guy named Dan Frazier saying that he heard my CD. That was back in the day when you had to mail CDs. He said he was very interested and he would love to talk. And I said, fantastic. So I think we chatted on the phone, and I mentioned that I was going to be in New Orleans in a month, just randomly going there on vacation with my buddy Rob and my brother Chris. He's like, great, I'm going to take you out to lunch. And I fly to New Orleans. It was August of 2003, early August, hot and humid. I don't recommend going to New Orleans at that point of the year. Much better off going in March or April, maybe May, or the fall side of that as well. And I remember sitting down to lunch with him, and it was great. We had a great conversation. And at the end of the lunch, we sat hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half. Dan says to me, I'm going to call you tomorrow and officially offer you this job. I was floored. I couldn't believe it. 25 years old, it's already starting to happen for me. So as things progress, and this was a really great opportunity for me to tell the truth, but I didn't always. The lie of fitting in. The lie of saying that I supported David Bitter when I did not. By the way, David Bitter later got caught up in a prostitution scandal. Remember the D.C. Madam? If you pay attention to politics, there were a bunch of people on this list that went to this particular prostitution house, the D.C. Madam's house, and this religious, conservative, Republican senator was on it. See, and I didn't know that he was that type of person. Which again, I'm not judging that behavior. I'm only judging myself in lying. And also the fact that this is an example of everyone who lies. That David Vitter is saying he's all these things. He's a Christian conservative candidate who is moral and upstanding, but sleeping with prostitutes twice a week or whatever. Spending money to go there. And I didn't know that he was that type of person, but I knew he was gross. And I didn't say that in the moment because I lied. And there were many times in my career where I did that. I lied about supporting a particular candidate. A couple of people in Arizona running for governor that came to mind because I knew who my audience was. And I knew who my boss was. So sometimes you play the game. But where I really am stepping forward today is to tell you that I was out of alignment with my own values. My own values are these four things, and this is how I approach my radio show. Number one is freedom. That is my biggest advocacy ever. It used to be the government should allow us to do anything we want, but now it's you should allow yourself to live the life you want. So they both come in handy, those definitions of freedom, because we do live in a place, in theory, that all men and women are created equal, but we don't always abide by that rule. And then there's this life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that's written in the Declaration of Independence. That is an individual task. Government is not responsible for your life, your liberty, or your happiness. You are your own authority. And that was where I clashed with people sometimes, because one area I did tell the truth in New Orleans, speaking to a right-leaning, conservative-leaning audience. I did a show in 2004 that was pro-gay marriage. I said, it's freedom. If I can marry a woman, why can't two women get married? Why can't two men get married? It's not my business. That's freedom. And that was fun because I had a 2-hour show at the time. Maybe it was a 3-hour show. I don't remember if I did this particular show. I had an afternoon show when I started. It was on from 5 to 7. And then I switched to mornings, 6 to 10. Oh, so maybe it was a 4-hour show. But either way, I took calls the entire show that disagreed with me. So I had these moments of telling these truths, but I had these moments of lies because I didn't want my audience to abandon me, because that's the only thing that we care about in media is your audience. Because the bigger your audience, the more you can charge for ad rates. And personally, the higher we charge for ad rates, the more money I make. So sometimes I lied. But see, there's also different levels where I'm a liar. Sometimes I lie to myself. Because that second value that I always said I had was truth and accuracy. Let's say I told the truth 75% of the time and lied 25% of the time. I'm not living in my values, so I'm lying to myself that I am. And then along the way, I made some personal choices that were out of alignment with my values. But I still said I had those values. Still said I was a moral, upstanding person, just like David Vitter said. But I wasn't always. So I was lying by saying those values. You know, this is also on top of little white lies we tell people to not rock the boat. Or you overcompliment someone to make them feel good when you know that that's a lie. But I'm here today because I'm working on this. To tell the truth all the time. Truth and accuracy. My third and fourth values are equality and justice. And I used to think about this as the job of the government as well. But I realized that in and of itself is a lie. Because if you really think about how things happen, how things change, they don't change because of some law. They change because of people. They change because we decide it's time for change. Let's go back to the civil rights movement. 1955, Rosa Parks is on a bus. She's told to go to the back. She doesn't. Sparks a bunch of boycotts. The boycotts become bigger. They spread. They go beyond busing. They go into lunch counters, a place called Woolworths, where black people were not allowed to sit at the counter. So they had sit-ins. Blocked the whole counter. That grew into marches. That grew into more protests, bigger protests. The government in some places like Alabama responded by using fire hoses and attack dogs to break up these crowds. And the images on this new thing called television were shocking. Those images showed us injustice. And then injustice stayed for a very long time. And then eventually it leads to Martin Luther King's phenomenal I Have a Dream speech, which was just him speaking the damn truth. Martin Luther King that day, August 1963, did not lie. That's what caused change. That's what caused the civil rights law to be passed in 1964. So you see, when we tell ourselves the truth, that's when we can change, both as individuals and as societies, communities. And that's what standard bearers do. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to tell the truth. Sometimes it sucks. And this is one of those challenges of being a human, because we all do it. We all lie. Little white lies, big, huge lies, lie to ourselves about how good of a person we are, or how we make the right decisions all the time. We want to give that appearance that we're perfect, so nobody judges us, so nobody castigates us outside of the tribe, just like I did at the speech in New Orleans. And I did many other times on the air because I didn't want to scare an audience away, because that meant scaring some money away, scaring a job away. So there's a fear, in many cases, beneath the lie. There's a fear of the loss, a fear of scarcity, a fear of whatever. So I'm here to tell you that today, it's a new era. Here on Equal Matters, we're going to focus on being standard bearers. We're going to focus on understanding truths, telling truths, being the truth, embodying the truth. Because that's the way forward. Just like Dr. King did in the 60s, and so many others have as well, because that's where the change comes from. And the general consensus I get in the 3 years post-pandemic is that Americans are generally tired, generally worn out, thinking our political system is a reality show that has gone on 5 seasons too long. It is past its warranty date. But it's not going to change until we decide that it's time to change. And it's only going to change when we decide to stop lying the way that I did. And I can't promise you that I'm going to be perfect the way going forward. That's not the point. But the point is, I'm here to tell the truth. And so are you. My name is Rob Hunter. Hit me up at robhunter.me. We'll be back again real soon to drop some more truths on you. Cheers.